Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to have some fun in the garden because we are going to add 3 brand new perennials, new to me at least, to my backyard garden space. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago I shared with you the fantastic plant haul that the friends at Walter's Gardens sent us, and so we're going to be taking 3 of those different kinds of plants and then incorporating them into the backyard flower beds. It is mid-late-ish October here in North Carolina, zone 7B. We already had 2 nights in a row of freezing temperatures, so my official growing season for my annuals is done. I will show you some of the plants that got fried, but it is not too late to be adding my perennials into the garden. The thing is about here in North Carolina, especially where we are, because we're in the Piedmont, our ground never really freezes. It gets cold, sure, and we have some nights that get really cold down in like to the low teens, but that may happen for like a night or the most like 2 nights in a row. We don't have weeks upon weeks of really cold temperatures, so our ground never freezes. Therefore, even though it is middle of October, it is still the absolute like prime season for me to be putting perennials, trees, and shrubs into the ground. If you are in colder climates, then you may need to tweak your calendar as far as like when you plant and when the last time like really is a good time to add perennials, trees, and shrubs to your garden. If you're in doubt, contact your local extension agency. Every county has one in the United States. They are there to help you and serve you, and so you can ask when would be about the last time that I could add these plants to my garden. And of course, your local garden center is always a great resource as well. So without further ado, let me share with you the fantastic 3 new perennials to me that we are going to be adding to the backyard space. We are back here. Brenna has found a stick, so she is my faithful companion as always. So don't mind her. What we're going to be doing first, well, these are in no particular order, it's just this is what I have right here, is the Drops of Jupiter oregano. Now, this oregano, yes, it is in the oregano family, like you think of like the culinary, and you could eat it, I suppose, but that certainly is not what it's meant for. You have these gorgeous, bright chartreuse color of the leaves on it. Has a nice little mounded habit to it. Not gonna get super tall. Let me grab my tag again so I can share with you. You're gonna get about 2 feet tall, and that will include the flower spikes. Beautiful, chartreuse color leaves that have a mauvey pink flower that start in later summer. I've got 3 of these. We're going to add these to the ground, and these are hardy in zones 4 to 9, full sun. If you don't get that full sun, then they're going to be more like a green instead of the chartreuse lime color. So we're going to add those. Then we're going to go with some gorgeous sedums. This is Pride and Joy, and Pride and Joy is a new member to, maybe you're familiar with Pure Joy, but this is part of the Rock and Round. This is Pride Joy. Nice, really, you can see from the picture and from the flowers on the plant. Now, of course, this is, we're getting towards the end of the bloom season here, but Pride and Joy has darker pink, darker leaves than Pure Joy. I do have some Pure Joy. We're just not going to add that today, but it is noticeably darker. Again, full, lots of sun for your sedums. They are great for season extenders into your garden and extremely low maintenance. So if you have an area where you're looking to add a plant that needs no fuss, you don't have irrigation on it, that's perfect because they like it dry. The soil is terrible, great, because they hate to be fertilized. I'm not even going to use biotone on these babies today. Just these sedums are great because for all those reasons, drought tolerant, hate to be fertilized, hate to be fussed over. They are beautiful flowering perennials that will happen late in the summer into fall. These have been out for the past, ever since Walter sent them to us. And even with the freezing temperatures that we had, they still are doing great. So you can leave them, and then the leave the flower heads on them all winter. The birds will come and enjoy them. Then come spring, you can trim up your plant. They're hardy in zones 3 to 9. So with me being a 7B, that is like perfect because I'm right there in the middle, and I'm going to put these underneath the Japanese maple. So it's going to be really fun. I'm going to put all 5 of them in a mass grouping together so that they make a really big impact. So pride and joy, excited about that one. And then my last one is going to be definitely an experiment because I have never grown any kind of Veronica. So what we have right here is the Magic Show Ever After. And Ever After is going to be one of the tallest blooms in the Veronica series, like the Veronica plants, right? So they can get almost like a foot tall. They will have just lavender blue, I cannot talk today, spikes that are self-cleaning. But again, look at this gorgeous, deep, dark green foliage. Handle those freezing temperatures like an absolute champ. And these are only 2 plants here, people. Like, look how massive that pot is. It is bigger than my head. So excited to add these in. These, as opposed to the sedums, do enjoy a really rich, organically rich soil. So I will be adding some land and sea compost when I plant these. I only have 2, but they are huge plants, and I have a nice little nook that I am going to tuck them in. So without further ado, I think I'm going to start with the Veronicas because it's just the closest to me. So we're going to get those in the ground, talk about those a little bit more. I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to put them where I am, and then we're just going to move on from there and get the other 2 sets of perennials in the ground. All right, so we are going to put the Ever After Veronicas right behind me. I only have those 2 that I said, but they're huge, so I know they're going to make a huge impact. We're going to plant them behind the Leading Lady Raspberry. The Leading Lady Raspberry is one of my all-time favorite Monardas. It's nice and petite, gorgeous, like raspberry colored blooms on it. I did have a whole section of them right there in the front. But if you will remember, we had some irrigation woes this summer, and the part of the irrigation that got the part of the flower bed that got the least amount of water was right here. So I did lose 3 of my Monardas. It's not the plant's fault, it's Jenny's fault, because Monarda like consistent water, and the more water you give them, the bigger and the fatter and the more beautiful they get. And these basically, they just kind of shriveled up and died, and that is not the plant's fault, that is my fault. I will replace those ones that I lost because the irrigation is fixed. It is the perfect spot for them, and these 2 Ever Afters are going to be really beautiful behind them. So imagine you have the Monardas that are like in that 12-foot height range, raspberry colored blooms, nice and vibrant, and then right behind them, right around the little pottery bird bath, you're going to have the Veronicas that are taller, that have these beautiful lavender flowers on them. Going to be stunning. And then off to the other side of them are the Cheyenne Sky grasses. Those, of course, are perennials, so you've got all sorts of different fun textures. The Monarda is a little bit more rounded as far as even with the blooms. You've got the Veronica that's very tall and spiky, and then you've got the grass that's flowing. It's going to be a beautiful sight. They do like to have organically rich soil. So I have a bag of land and sea. I will pull back my mulch, and then I will dig my holes with my power planter auger. I will incorporate some of that land and sea into my native soil, about 1 part compost to about 3 parts native soil. And then when I'm done with that, then I will top dress around the Veronicas with that land and sea, and then put my mulch back. So that is what we're going to do right here, and then we will move on over to my right shoulder and we will put the oreganos in the ground. All right, we got the Veronicas in the ground, and now we are gonna move over to the Pearl Glams in that general area. If you remember, we planted those a week, 10 days ago. So we're gonna put the drops of Jupiter of oregano around that area. It's gonna be so pretty. All right, let's move over and go there. All right, so you can see that I've already placed these drops of Jupiter, and I just nestled them in right here around those Pearl Glams. I think it's gonna be super, super fun because the Pearl Glams and the drops of Jupiter have such a contrast of their foliage color, but then their flowers from the oregano and the berries of the beautyberry bush are going to be very similar. So they're both kind of in that fall colors, right? And they're going to be having those gorgeous colors together, not only, you know, in the fall, which will be fantastic, but even during the spring and the summer, because you'll have the beautiful foliage of the drops of oregano against the gorgeous beauty berries. They will have white flowers spring and summer, which then turn into these beautiful berries. I think it's gonna be really fun. Put them all in here together. The beauty berries do bloom on new growth, so I will prune them each early spring, so coming out of winter, going into spring, so I can keep them more a little bit limbed up, shall we say, so that way they don't crowd out the oregano. But this spot, everything back here gets sun up to sundown. Definitely a full sun plant for both of these and will do great. The oregano just needs well draining soil. It's here, everything right here is on a slope, so it will drain very nicely. So we're just gonna kind of do the exact same thing that we did over there with the Veronicas. Get my holes dug. I will use the biotone in there, and since I have an open bag of that land and sea, I'll probably just go ahead and top dress just a little bit with the oregano. Brenna finds the oregano very aromatic. She can't keep her nose out of them. Not that she's eating or anything, she just, I think, really likes the smell because it does have that faint oregano smell to it. Very interesting. Excuse me, it's very interesting, but you know, if she does decide to all of a sudden take a bite out of it, it is just oregano, so it's not gonna hurt her. But of course, I will not encourage that. Do not need my dog eating my plants. All right, let's get these holes dug and these plants in the ground. Okie dokie, my friends. So we got all three of the oreganos are in the ground, and it's gonna be really fun here. I love adding these new perennials into the garden, into the landscape. Remember, when you're looking at adding plants to your garden, you want to think about color, height, texture, bloom time, and then vary that up, right? So you've got the Pearl Glams, which will be nice and tall, beautiful. Like early on, they're more of a green leaf with the white flowers, more full because it's a shrub. Then you're gonna have the oreganos that are low to the ground, chartreuse color. They're gonna be more wide than they are tall. Then they both will bloom. Of course, the blooms on the beautyberry are the berries, but they will all coordinate really well with each other and complement each other really nicely. Now, you may be thinking, well, Jenny, why did you add these really low growing oreganos to the back of this flower bed? Why not something tall here? Well, because we really do access this flower bed from all angles. So we don't just see it from the house to here. We travel back through here all the time. The garden shed's right there. The cut flower garden's right there. So we really do get a 360 of this flower bed, both of these flower beds. That is why I'm very confident and very happy with putting something really low growing here on the quote back edge of the flower bed. So now we're going to move up and get those sedums into the ground underneath the Japanese maple. Let me show you where we're going to put them. Okay, sweet friends, so here we've got 5 of the Rockin' Around Pride and Joy perennial sedums we are going to put in the ground. So what do I have right here? I have the tea olives that are where Brenna is. Of course, great evergreen, tall structure. Then on the other side between the tea olives and my David Austin roses, there is a hedge of the reblooming, the Encore double, it's the double pink reblooming azalea. I'll have to find, I can't remember the exact variety, but they are a beautiful double pink bloom. They did get fried by the freeze, so they're not very pretty right now. But the reason I'm telling you this is because we're gonna have the deep pink of the Pride and Joy that will complement very nicely with those azaleas, with the David Austins, against the foliage of the sweet osmanthus, and then of course my Japanese maple that is here, the hydrangeas. All of these colors will blend really, really nicely together. And then the sedums are gonna give a whole different look to this area because they're gonna be nice and low. They only get to be like maybe a foot tall. And then the spacing on them is pretty close to each other, 16 inches. So you can see, I just did a really simple. I am keeping it simple, y'all, because I know that my tea olives are gonna grow out. I need to come and be able to trim them. So I need to be able to come up close to them. Of course, the canopy of the maple is gonna get bigger. But being right here on the edge, full hot sun, I am not going to compost these. I am not going to fertilize these whatsoever. Your sedums, if they're in too good of soil or too rich of a soil, too much fertilizer, too much water, then they'll get really kind of leggy and open. And we want these to be nice and tight and compact. So it's going to be really simple. I am going to dig my holes, get these sweet things in the ground. Sedums are kind of notoriously a little tender. So if, like some of them are a little holy because they did get shipped from Michigan, and then just the shipping process, some of the stems broke off. When I'm planting it, some stems are most likely going to break off again. That's okay. It is not that big of a deal. The plant is just fine, nice and sturdy. So once we get it in the ground, all is well. So I'm going to get my auger and get these holes dug and get these babies in the ground. Okay friends, so all three different types of new perennials for me are now in the ground. Very excited to have some more additions. That's the thing about gardening, right? As you find new plants or new plants come into your life, just fit them in and add them in wherever they may go. I think there are maybe sometimes there's two types of gardeners, or I know personally I switch between both kinds of gardeners. One, you kind of have an overall, like you see a plant and you say, I know exactly where you're going to go, and this is exactly what I want in the garden. And then there's those times where you're like, I have no clue where you're gonna go. I love you and I'm gonna add you to the garden. Well, that's kind of the situation with today. I had not planned on these three different kinds of perennials, but I am so excited to have these additions in. So we're gonna run through real quick. I'm gonna show you the big overall picture of where everybody is, kind of give you a little bit of perspective. Of course, starting here with the last one that we added, which was the Pride and Joy sedums. This gives you an idea. So we've got the tea olives here, the Japanese maple, both the little lime punches, the pufferfish, the fountain, and everybody is right there. So you can see that these 5 sedums are going to look so nicely, kind of frame the Japanese maple right there. I did lose a couple of little tiny limbs off of them, but that's all right. I know that in the long run they will be just fine. but just a sweet, nice little addition. Even after 2 nights of freezes and they still have this amount of color on them, I am very, very happy with that. Speaking of the freeze, like I said, certain things are still going strong. The roses, not a problem. Some of the salvia got hit a little bit underneath the forest pansy in that bed. You can see how many leaves that forest pansy has lost. All of my begonias, impatiens, caladiums, broalia, all of that is fried. I will get back in there and clean that up. Hibiscus though are still, I was surprised that they didn't get more burnt than they did. So that is a great thing. And then we're gonna pan on over here ever so slowly to show you my poor sad lantana. This is the luscious citron, and you can see burnt to a crisp, especially up like I guess what the top half of the plant. I will get in here in the next week or so and get all of these pulled out. So those got fried. Let's see what else. The echinacea got, this is the yellow improved, sombrero yellow improved. It got a little bit more toasty as far as the blooms, just because I think they're more exposed. But like the double play doozy spireas are doing great, the butterfly bushes, even the daylilies are still holding their own, which is great. And then coming on, oh, sorry, back it up, Jenny. Beep, beep, beep. Back it up. Forgot. There we go. Here's the oregano. So we're on the other side of the flower bed. We have the 3 pearl glams right there, and then you can see those oreganos. Drops of Jupiter are right there in the center of that space. The white muhly grass is showing some little signs of color. Super excited about that. Right there they are. Of course, they will continue to get bigger and better as each year progresses. And then moving on over, you can see more of the luscious citron that is completely fried. I mean, just crispy. And then as we make our way back over, I'm telling you, y'all, one of the greatest success stories of the year is this Julia Child rose tree. We rescued this. It was my daughter Emily's. It was her idea. This poor rose tree was just bare sticks. And she said, Mama, let's rescue it. Now, I do think I am going to have to stake it up, because if you can see, the wind predominantly comes from the north to the south. And so she's starting to lean a little bit. So I do need to get in here and shore her up, especially with all of these gorgeous flowers on them. I mean, look at that. And of course, it's called the Julia Child rose, because it is a buttery yellow flower that smell great. So they are just doing fantastic. And then below that is the one cinnamon echinacea from Proven Winners. And then right over the corner of the Cheyenne sky is where the Veronica is. They have 2 nice dark green clumps right there for you. Just gorgeous plants. These are hardy to zone 8 as far as the heat hardiness. And this is my one spot, because of the maple tree, that they will get a break from the afternoon sun. So I think that'll help a little bit, but certainly will be nice and cold for them in the wintertime, because they do need that vernalization period. Vernalization just simply means that required length of cold temperatures in order to produce the blooms for next year. So it should do fine just right there. But to show you the difference, here is the citron that is, because of the maple tree, was protected and is showing no signs on this side of being affected by the freeze. So that just shows you, depending on, you know, where your plants are, how exposed they are, will determine, you know, how soon, how quickly that first freeze or frost takes them out for you. But if you can find any of these 3 perennials in your local garden center, I would encourage you to check them out. I think they're going to be lots and lots of fun in here. I still have more perennials from Walters that they sent us, so I'm excited to add those in the next coming weeks. But as always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.